The Zenith Dominion had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Its iron grip stretched across thousands of systems, its fleets outnumbering the stars themselves. Humanity, a relatively young species in this vast cosmic empire, was nothing more than a vassal race, a species that had surrendered without a fight when the Dominion first arrived in their skies. Or at least, that was the lie everyone believed. Beneath the surface, in the cold darkness of space, humanity had been waging a war that no one saw coming. Elias Voss stood on the bridge of the Revenant, his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the holographic display of their latest operation. He had spent years planning for this moment. Years of whispered meetings in the void, of sabotaged supply lines, of stolen technology integrated into human ingenuity. The Ghost Fleet was real now, no longer just a dream passed between exiled captains and rogue engineers. The time for hiding was nearly over. Final confirmation just came in, Lieutenant Arden reported, her voice steady but edged with excitement. The Dominion's patrol ship Vecnera has vanished. No distress signals. No survivors. A murmur passed through the officers gathered around the holotable. The Vecnera was the fourth Dominion ship in the past month to disappear in human-controlled space. To the rest of the galaxy, it would look like a string of unlucky accidents. To Voss, it was proof that humanity had perfected their silent rebellion. Any traces? Voss asked. None, Arden replied. We used the graviton disruptor to simulate an asteroid collision. The wreckage will drift into a gas giant's atmosphere within hours. As far as the Dominion is concerned, it'll be nothing more than bad luck. Voss exhaled, pleased but cautious. Every successful strike made them stronger, but it also brought them closer to exposure. And if the Dominion realized what was happening before they were ready, Earth would burn. Still, he allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. We're ready for the next phase, he said, turning to his officers. The Dominion thinks we're still cowering under their rule. Let's keep it that way, until we decide to show them the truth. A shadow awakens. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the Dominion, Prefect Kaizen stood in front of a massive tactical display aboard his personal dreadnought, the Velzer. His four clawed fingers traced the air, shifting through reports, each one a puzzle piece in a mystery that shouldn't exist. 4 ships, 4 unexplained disappearances. No distress calls, no escape pods, no wreckage that made sense. This wasn't a random phenomenon. It was a pattern. And if there was one thing the Dominion feared, it was an enemy bold enough to fight them in the dark. Order a full investigation, Kaizen said, his deep guttural voice sending chills through his subordinates. We are no longer dealing with accidents. As his officers scrambled to obey, Kaizen narrowed his eyes. Something was happening, and humanity was at the center of it. The Daedalus drifted in the shadow of a dead moon, its hull blackened to absorb light, its engines running cold. To the Dominion, it was nothing more than another lifeless rock in deep space, but inside, humanity's deadliest operatives prepared for the most critical mission of the rebellion. Elias Voss stood at the center of the bridge, his expression carved from stone. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The Ghost Fleet had stayed hidden for years, sabotaging supply lines and erasing patrol ships, but now they needed power, the kind of energy core only the Dominion shipyards could provide. The target, Outpost Omega 12, a remote Dominion facility orbiting a dying star. Its purpose, housing an experimental quantum singularity core, an energy source powerful enough to fuel a fleet. The mission, steal it. Voss activated the holotable, displaying a 3-dimensional map of the outpost. His strike team, 10 of the best operatives humanity had to offer, stood in silence, absorbing every detail. This is a grab-and-go operation, Voss said, his voice sharp. No prolonged firefights, no collateral damage. We get in, take the core, and disappear before the Dominion even realizes what happened. Extraction plan, asked Arden, standing at his side. Voss smirked. Simple. We steal one of their own freighters and slip out right under their noses. A few chuckles rippled through the crew, but the tension remained thick. Everyone knew what was at stake. If they pulled this off, humanity would gain the power to build an unstoppable war fleet. If they failed, the Dominion would realize humanity was more than just a scattered insurgency. Failure wasn't an option. The infiltration. The Daedalus drifted closer, its stealth plating absorbing enemy scans. Inside, the strike team suited up, their weapons checked and rechecked in practiced silence. 2 minutes to launch, the pilot announced. Voss turned to his team. No mistakes, he reminded them. Let's make history. The boarding craft launched into the void, silent as death, cutting through the darkness toward Omega 12. As it latched onto a maintenance hatch, the squad moved fast, cutting through the bulkhead and slipping inside like ghosts. Security was light. No one expected an attack in a sector the Dominion had ruled uncontested for centuries. The team moved in perfect formation, disabling cameras, hacking into the station's internal systems, and reaching the core chamber without a single alarm raised. The quantum singularity core hummed with unimaginable power, encased in a reinforced vault. Arden tapped furiously on her wrist computer, bypassing security codes faster than should have been possible. "We're in," she whispered. As the core's containment field powered down, a wave of raw energy pulsed through the station. Lights flickered. Something had gone wrong. "Commander," Arden breathed, eyes widening. "They know we're here." The chase begins. Alarms screamed through the station. The Dominion's automated defenses activated, turret systems locking onto the team's location. Doors slammed shut. They had minutes before reinforcements arrived. "Move," Voss ordered. Grabbing the core, the team sprinted through the corridors, blasting through Dominion security forces as they tried to cut them off. Every second counted. Outside, the Daedalus was already maneuvering into position, preparing for emergency extraction. But a new problem appeared on their scanners. A Dominion warship had just arrived. And it wasn't alone. The alarms shrieked across Outpost Omega 12, red warning lights strobing through the corridors as Elias Voss and his strike team raced toward their extraction point. The quantum singularity core, barely stabilized in its containment field, thrummed ominously in their hands. Every second counted. "Daedalus, status." Voss barked into his comm. "Bad," came the clipped response from the pilot. "Dominion warship just dropped out of FTL. Class II Hunter. If we don't leave in 60 seconds, we're dead." Voss gritted his teeth. Class II Hunters weren't just patrol ships. They were executioners. Designed for rapid pursuit and obliteration, they could tear apart entire fleets if given the chance. "Then we don't leave in the Daedalus," he growled. Arden shot him a sharp glance. "What are you thinking?" Voss smirked grimly. "We stick to the plan. We steal one of theirs." The fight for the freighter. The team sprinted down the final corridor toward the docking bay, but the Dominion was waiting for them. A squad of enforcers, clad in obsidian armor and armed with plasma rifles, blocked their exit. "Cover," Arden yelled, diving behind a supply crate as blue-white energy bolts ripped through the air. Voss moved like a predator, rolling into position and dropping 2 enforcers with pinpoint shots. Arden jammed a hacking device into the control panel, overriding the lockdown. The freighter's docking clamps disengaged with a hiss, the ship now free for the taking. "Board now," Voss commanded. The squad rushed inside, sealing the hatch behind them. Arden bolted for the cockpit, slamming her hands onto the controls. "Punching it," she shouted. The stolen Dominion freighter roared to life, its thrusters igniting just as a second wave of enforcers stormed the hangar. Bolts of plasma pinged off the hull, but it was too late. They were already lifting off. Voss exhaled. They had done it. Then his stomach dropped. A proximity alarm blared, and outside the viewport, the Class II Hunter loomed like a beast scenting its prey. The betrayal. The Hunter's comm channel crackled to life. "Human vessel, "Stand down," came a guttural voice. "You cannot run. Surrender, and you may yet live." Voss narrowed his eyes. They didn't know what they had stolen. If the Dominion realized the Singularity Core was missing, they wouldn't demand surrender. They'd incinerate them on sight. "We need an escape vector," Arden muttered, scanning the star map. "Only one option. Slingshot around the dying star and use the gravitational pull to launch us into FTL. Do it." Arden's fingers flew across the controls, but before she could engage, the Dominion ship's tractor beam locked onto them. A voice spoke from behind them. "Shut it down." Voss turned and saw Lieutenant Rayner, one of their own, holding a sidearm to Arden's head. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. "You sold us out," Voss hissed. Rayner's expression was cold. "You don't understand. This war is suicide. We can't win. The Dominion is offering us a way out. By handing us over." Arden spat. "By stopping this madness before Earth burns," Rayner snapped. "They don't want to exterminate us. But if we keep pushing, if we keep killing their people, they will." Voss stared him down. He had seen men break before, but this was different. Rayner believed he was doing the right thing. And that made him even more dangerous. The hunters' weapons began to charge. Time was up. Voss didn't hesitate. He moved faster than Rayner expected, twisting the man's wrist and forcing the weapon away. A single gunshot rang out. Rayner staggered back, blood seeping from his chest. Arden gasped. "Elias." "Fly," Voss ordered, stepping over the traitor's body. Arden engaged the slingshot maneuver, and the freighter lurched forward, engines screaming as it ripped free from the tractor beam's hold. The dying star pulled them in, gravity warping around them in a violent spiral. Outside, the hunter unleashed a full salvo, plasma beams slicing through the void. But they were already gone. Escaping the inferno, the freighter burst from the star's gravity well, propelled at impossible speeds. The ship's hull groaned under the stress, but Arden punched the FTL drive, sending them into the darkness of hyperspace. Silence fell over the cabin. The only sound was the fading hum of the Singularity Core, safely secured in the cargo hold. They had done it. They had escaped. But Rayner's body lay on the floor, a painful reminder that not every battle was fought against the Dominion. Some were fought within. And the war was just beginning. The stolen Dominion freighter hurtled through the void, the hum of its quantum singularity core vibrating in the air like a second heartbeat. The ship was safe, for now, but the weight of what had just happened pressed down on everyone like a crushing gravity well. Elias Voss stood in the dimly lit corridor, staring at Lieutenant Rayner's lifeless body. Blood pooled beneath the traitor's still form, seeping into the metal grating. A comrade, a betrayer, a warning. "This doesn't leave the ship," Voss said, his voice flat. "If word gets out that one of our own turned against us, it could break everything we've built." Arden's jaw tightened. "People deserve to know what we're up against." "They need to believe we're united," Voss countered, his steel-gray eyes locking onto hers. "Otherwise, the Dominion doesn't even have to fight us. We'll tear ourselves apart." Arden didn't argue, because she knew he was right. The hunt begins. In the void, silence was a dangerous thing. It meant something was lurking, waiting. And right now, the Dominion was doing just that. Prefect Kaizen stood aboard his personal dreadnought, Valzer, staring at the holographic star map in front of him. The stolen freighter's escape vector had been messy, an act of desperation, and desperation left trails. "Analyze the gravity wake," Kaizen ordered. His subordinates moved swiftly, their clawed hands tapping away at their controls. A second later, an officer turned, mandibles clicking in triumph. "We have them. Their trajectory suggests a rendezvous point within the Nymos expanse." Kaizen smiled, a predator's expression. "Prepare the fleet. The humans think they can hide in the dark." His reptilian eyes gleamed. "Let's show them who owns the shadows." Nowhere left to run. Back on the freighter, Arden analyzed the navigation data. We're headed toward Outpost Epsilon, one of our deep space refueling stations. It's hidden in a debris field. Our best shot at disappearing. Voss nodded, but his gut twisted. The plan had been to return in secrecy, delivering the core before the Dominion knew what hit them. But now, they know we exist, he muttered. We have to assume they're tracking us. Then we lay a trap, Arden said. Voss turned to her. Explain. Arden pulled up the schematics of the Nymos Expanse, a volatile sector filled with asteroid clusters, spatial rifts, and ion storms strong enough to cripple even Dominion ships. If they follow us in, we lead them straight into an ion storm, force them to spread their forces, and turn the debris field into a killing ground. Voss stared at the map, calculating the odds. They were bad. But so was running. We make our stand, he decided. And if the Dominion wants to finish this in the dark, his gaze hardened, then we'll bury them in it. The Nymos Expanse loomed ahead, a chaotic graveyard of shattered moons, drifting asteroids, and ion storms that crackled with raw energy. It was a place where even the most advanced navigation systems failed, where ships vanished without a trace. For Elias Voss and his crew, it was the perfect battlefield. Bring us in slow, he ordered from the freighter's cockpit. The ship's engines hummed softly as they slipped into the debris field, vanishing between tumbling rock formations. The Ghost Fleet, their hidden rebel force, had prepared this place for years, seeding it with gravity mines, EMP disruptors, and stealth turrets. Now it would become a mass grave for the Dominion. How long until they arrive? Arden asked, her fingers tapping restlessly on the console. Voss didn't look away from the viewport. Not long. As if on cue, a Dominion fleet tore into real space behind them. The Dominion's arrival. The Val-Zur, Prefect Xi-Zan's dreadnought, led the charge, flanked by a formation of warships and hunter-class cruisers. Their massive hulls gleamed under the distant light of a dying star, their weapons charging, scanning, searching. Inside his command center, Xi-Zan watched with cold satisfaction as his forces surrounded the asteroid field. The humans are trapped, one of his officers rasped. No, Xi-Zan corrected. They are cornered, and cornered prey is the most dangerous. He gestured toward the holographic display. Flush them out. Burn everything. At his command, Dominion warships unleashed waves of plasma torpedoes and shock rounds, blasting through the asteroid field. Jagged rocks shattered, explosions rippling through the expanse. The debris burned, but the humans did not appear. Xi-Zan's mandibles tightened. Where are they? Then, the trap sprung. The ambush. The Ghost Fleet struck like phantoms. From the shadows of dead asteroids, human warships decloaked, their weapons already primed. Railguns fired at near-light speeds, punching through Dominion shields before their crews even had time to react. Gravity mines detonated, dragging smaller ships into spiraling doom. One Dominion cruiser exploded instantly. Another lost power as an EMP charge fried its circuits. Contact. Multiple hostiles. A Dominion officer screeched. They were waiting for us. Inside the stolen freighter, Arden smirked. Welcome to the real war, you bastards. The Dominion scrambled to react, their formations breaking apart as the battlefield became chaos. Dogfights erupted in every direction, fighters weaving through the debris while capital ships struggled to orient themselves. Voss activated his comm. All forces. Crush them. The battle was no longer silent. It was a slaughter. Xi-Zan's last move. Prefect Xi-Zan watched the destruction unfold, fury seething beneath his calm exterior. This was not how humans were supposed to fight. They were supposed to be weak, disorganized, prey. Not this. His eyes narrowed. Unless. Focus fire on the freighter, he ordered. Whatever they stole is the key to all of this. The Val-Zur's primary cannons charged, locking onto Voss's ship. Arden paled. Elias, They're going to wipe us out. Voss's mind raced. They had won the ambush. But if the Dominion destroyed the freighter, the quantum singularity core would be lost. And without it, humanity's war would end before it truly began. There was only one move left. Divert all power to engines, he said. We're making a run for it. The battle was far from over. It had only just begun. The stolen Dominion freighter bucked violently as Valzur's primary cannons unleashed hell, searing plasma blasts, narrowly missing the hull. The impact shockwaves sent Voss and his crew staggering as alarms screamed through the ship. They're locking onto us again, Arden shouted, her hands flying across the controls. If they land a direct hit, we're dust. Voss gritted his teeth. The battle in the Nymos expanse was still raging, but their mission, their war, hinged on one thing: getting the singularity core out alive. We need an escape vector, Voss barked. Arden's eyes darted across the nav display. There's a gravitational rift near the asteroid belt's edge. It's unstable as hell, but if we hit it at the right angle, we slingshot out of here, Voss finished. Or get ripped apart, Arden muttered. The ship lurched again, another near hit scorching their shields. They were out of time. Better than sitting here and waiting to die, Voss growled. Do it. The gauntlet. The freighter roared forward, engines at full burn. Behind them, the Valzur and its warships relentlessly pursued, their sleek obsidian hulls cutting through the chaos. Dominion fighters swarmed like predatory birds, weaving through the debris and closing in fast. Bogies incoming, Arden yelled. Voss spun toward the weapons console. Myko, clear our tail. Myko, their Deadeye gunner, didn't hesitate. Say goodnight, lizards. The freighter's rear turrets blazed to life, unleashing a storm of high-velocity slugs and plasma bursts. Dominion fighters exploded in rapid succession, debris spiraling into the void, but more kept coming. A torpedo lock warning blared. Shit, incoming, Arden cried. Voss grabbed the comm. Daedalus, where the hell are you? A burst of static. Then a voice. On your 6, Commander. The Daedalus dropped out of cloak like a vengeful specter, its side-mounted railguns firing with pinpoint precision. Dominion ships erupted into fireballs, their formations thrown into chaos. Voss exhaled. Perfect timing. The rift gambit. Ahead, the gravitational rift churned, a swirling mass of warped spacetime. It pulsed with unstable energy, a hungry void capable of tearing ships apart. If we don't hit this just right, we'll get crushed, Arden warned. Noted, Voss said. Arden, get us lined up. Myko, keep us covered. Daedalus, run interference. The stolen freighter shot toward the rift, Dominion forces desperate to stop them. The Valzur loomed, its cannons charging for one final kill shot. Almost there, Arden shouted. Behind them, the Dominion fired. A supercharged plasma beam tore through space, racing toward them at terrifying speed. Voss's heart pounded. Now, Arden. The freighter dived into the rift's gravity well just as the blast grazed their hull. The ship shuddered, twisted, and then vanished into the swirling void. Behind them, the Valzur's shot missed its mark. Thyssen snarled as the humans disappeared. Out of the fire, inside the freighter, everything was chaos. Sparks flew. The ship spun wildly. The rift tore at them, trying to crush them into nothingness. Hold it together, Voss yelled, gripping his harness. Arden fought the controls, sweat dripping down her face. Almost. There. With a final, gut-wrenching lurch, they were through. The freighter burst from the rift into the quiet calm of deep space. The Dominion was gone. They had escaped. But the war was far from over. The freighter drifted in the void, its engines flickering, hull scared and battered. The gravitational rift had spit them out into uncharted space, far from any known sector. But they were alive, and the singularity core was intact. Status? Elias Voss asked, his voice hoarse from the adrenaline crash. Arden checked the systems, her hands shaking slightly. We took heavy damage. Shields are gone, sublight engines barely holding, and FTL is offline. We're stranded unless we get repairs. Mikko groaned from his seat, wincing as he pulled himself upright. Could have been worse. We could have been vaporized. Small victories, Voss muttered, running a hand through his damp hair. The cost of survival. The Daedalus, their stealth ship, appeared from the shadows, finally catching up after the chaos of the battle. Its captain, Commander Orin Drake, hailed them immediately. Voss, what the hell happened? Orin's face was lined with exhaustion, his sharp blue eyes scanning the damage on their ship. We lost contact when you hit the rift. Thought you were dead. Not yet, Voss replied. But we need a way home. Orin exhaled sharply. There's a problem with that. The Dominion. He hesitated, as if weighing how much to say. They hit Outpost Epsilon while you were gone. It's gone. Elias. The word slammed into Voss like a punch to the gut. Arden's eyes widened. Gone? What do you mean gone? Orin's expression hardened. Total annihilation. No survivors. Silence filled the cabin. The rebellion's primary outpost, their strongest foothold, had been erased. Those bastards knew, Mikko whispered. They were waiting for us to make a move. Voss clenched his fists. Raynor's betrayal. That was how the Dominion had known where to strike. They hadn't just been hunting Voss's team. They had been burning every trace of the rebellion itself. This changes everything, Arden said quietly. No safe harbor, no fallback, no base to return to. But Voss wasn't done fighting. A new plan. We still have the core, Voss said, his voice like iron. And that means we still have a chance. Orin shook his head. A chance for what exactly? The Dominion just wiped out our biggest stronghold. They're tightening the noose. We need to lay low, maybe regroup in one of the outer colonies. Voss's jaw tightened. No. That's what they expect us to do. Arden narrowed her eyes. You're thinking of something reckless, aren't you? Damn right I am, Voss said. He turned to Orin. Get me in contact with the remaining fleet captains. If the Dominion wants to wipe us out, we don't wait for them to come knocking. We strike first. Orin hesitated, then nodded. Where? Voss exhaled. The Dominion's main war foundries. If we're going out, we're taking their entire war machine with us. Arden smiled grimly. Now that's a plan. The final battle was coming. And this time, humanity wouldn't be running. The stolen freighter and the Daedalus drifted in the void, their crews preparing for what would be humanity's most daring and desperate offensive. The plan was reckless, suicidal, even, but it was the only option left. They would strike at the heart of the Dominion's war machine, the Saltor Forge worlds. Buried deep within Dominion space, these massive orbital shipyards were responsible for producing entire armadas, churning out warships at an industrial scale. If the rebellion could destroy them, they wouldn't just cripple the Dominion's war effort. They would shock the entire galaxy. This wasn't just a battle. It was a message. The infiltration. The Ghost Fleet, what was left of the rebellion's forces, regrouped in the shadows of a dying star. 12 ships, that was all they had, against a Dominion fleet of thousands. We don't need to win, Voss told his gathered captains over the comm. We just need to hit them hard enough that they never recover. The plan was brutal in its simplicity. The Daedalus would infiltrate the Forge World's security grid, planting a virus to disable its defenses. The freighter, carrying the stolen quantum singularity core, would then detonate it within the shipyards, triggering a gravitational implosion that would collapse the entire orbital structure. A black hole bomb. Once we plant the core, we only have minutes to escape, Arden reminded them. After that, there's no stopping it. No one needed to say the obvious. Many wouldn't make it out. But no one backed down. The assault begins. The Ghost Fleet struck under the cover of a solar storm, using the interference to mask their approach. The Daedalus slipped through first, jamming Dominion sensors while elite strike teams infiltrated the Forge World's control centers. Then the fleet emerged from the darkness, railguns, plasma cannons, and torpedoes unleashing hell on the Dominion's defenses. Explosions rippled across the shipyards, docking bays shattered, and Dominion warships scrambled in disarray. On the freighter, Voss and Arden piloted through the chaos, dodging wreckage and incoming fire. "We're almost at the core detonation point," Arden shouted. "Keep us steady," Voss barked, priming the singularity device. The last stand. The Dominion, finally recovering from the shock, counterattacked with terrifying force. Warships poured into the battle, overwhelming the human forces. One by one, rebel ships fell. Inside the Forge World, Prefect Texaizen watched the battle unfold from his command center. His forces were superior. The humans had no escape. But something felt wrong. Then his eyes widened. "Target the freighter," he roared. "They're carrying." Too late. Voss activated the core and set the ship on autopilot, sending it straight toward the Forge World's reactor hub. "Time to go," Arden yelled. They launched themselves toward the Daedalus as the freighter slammed into the heart of the Forge World. The Singularity core detonated. The end of the Dominion's might. A violent shockwave ripped through the shipyards as gravity twisted and collapsed. The Forge World began imploding, its own mass crushing inward. Dominion warships tried to flee, only to be dragged into the vortex. Kaizen's dreadnought fought against the pull, engines screaming. He watched in horror as his empire's greatest shipyards were consumed by darkness. The Daedalus barely escaped the blast radius, its crew watching in stunned silence as the Dominion's war machine was erased from existence. Victory, at a cost. The Ghost Fleet was gone. Only a handful survived. Voss stood on the Daedalus's bridge, staring at the wreckage of what had once been the Dominion's mightiest stronghold. "They'll never recover from this," Arden whispered. Voss nodded. "Neither will we." But it didn't matter. Humanity had done the impossible. They had taken the war to their oppressors. And won. Across the galaxy, other species took notice. The Dominion, once untouchable, had been brought to its knees by mere humans. The silent rebellion was silent no more. The war wasn't over. But for the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were winning. The end.